Colonel Valery gave 38 years of his life to the Strategic Rocket Forces, and he worked in nuclear command and control, what he calls C-cubed. He's also done an amount of work in, I guess you would call it, strategic analysis with the General Staff, and much of what he says comes from the kind of background that he has in that. Now, where I have come from with it is from working on lowering the operational readiness of nuclear weapon systems, and trying to direct or to spearhead or whatever a global campaign to do that. Now, it may not be immediately obvious to people, although many of us walked in some quite mammoth demonstrations back in the 1980s where we were quite convinced that the world was going to end Thursday or Thursday week, depending on what various computer systems in Colorado or Krasnoyarsk were doing. And we didn't actually realise at the time just how bad things really were, and how terrifyingly close we came to the apocalypse, and to an accidental apocalypse. Colonel Valery gives us, underneath all of those reams of statistical analysis and so on, he gives us a formula which enables us to take the apocalypse off the agenda, and at the same time that meets the objections to lowering the operational readiness of nuclear weapon systems that have been raised by some military, some people in the Pentagon, and by the conservative side of US politics. There's a considerable global push to lower the operational readiness of nuclear weapon systems. 152 countries, including Australia, voted for that to happen at the last sitting of the United Nations First Committee in General Assembly. It's going to come up again this coming October, and hopefully some of us will be there to kind of encourage it along. And yet, within the right side of US politics and within some parts of the bowels of the Pentagon, there is furious resistance to this. Now, in all fairness, one should add that a number of former commanders of STRATCOM believe that lowering the operational readiness of nuclear weapon systems is an essential step to making the world a safer place. Here we are not so much making history as making history possible. We're ensuring that the human race remains in operation. So if you get a little confused, if there's a tendency to think, why am I here listening to this? Why is this happening? Why is this important? It is actually that important. It is not so much making history as making history possible. I give you Colonel Valery Varynich.
I'm a participant. I was participant 50 years ago missile Cuban crisis. And we will have holiday anniversary, of course, in October. And I participated and in design and testing and exploitation of so-called dead hand system. It is not a dead hand, it is a left hand. I participated in many and very interesting things, and you can ask me about them after my speech. But I would like to explain you one of possible approaches to solve today's very complicated problems between United States and Russia, first of all, in nuclear weapons area. And maybe in my lecture there will be many technical aspects, but I believe that technical things, technical experts, technical justifications very, very strongly help to other aspects of decision making, political, psychological, organizational, and other legislation and others. For example, I would like to begin with one thing that will ask me recently, some time, a minute ago, before this meeting in another room. I stopped on a very interesting place to be continued. I would like to repeat slightly. Dead hand system, very many talks in the world, worldwide about this system, and many journalists, many experts even, don't want to try to understand essence, and after that have own opinion. I would like to explain. Earlier, before this system, maybe 60s, maybe 70s years, Russian president, Soviet president, in crisis can have very, very serious task. Suddenly he saw on screen of early warning system signal about American attack, rocket attack against Russia. What do? It is a heavy situation to be or not to be. Because if, for example, this signal is false, mistake, technical defect, and he pushed button and gave order on launch Soviet missiles, we have nuclear war without reason. But on the contrary, if this signal was real and real attack, but he don't push button, then he killed his officers killed and command post destroyed, and Russia, no, Russian nuclear forces. What do? Our designers and scientists found very interesting decision. They were created special, very protected underground facilities, spheres, small, with duty crews, officers inside. And this time, this crew cannot push button and launch all missiles in Russia territory. This system closed, automatically closed. When a crisis and president saw this picture about attack, he has possibility to remove from himself responsibility for the consequences. How? He delegated preliminary permission to this facility. Special command. This special command received in system, but system does not open. Continue to be closed. And if real attack and explosions in area, different sensors give information to this sphere. And plus second condition, plus a third condition, not absolutely communications with authority. Not cable, not radio, not maybe cell phone even. 3 conditions simultaneously. Preliminary information, information about real attack, and absence of communications. After that, system is open automatically, but not launched missile. And crew, people, officers can decide push button or not. It means that this system is a live system and people system, not automatic. And if signal was false, no information from sensors and there is communications, good communications, system automatically return in peacetime state. The test, very complicated test, is decided. But unfortunately, many people cannot, does not want to try to understand and blah, 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 automatic hand and tasks. By the way, David Hoffman, author that hand, is my good friend. And he very nice, very good understands this situation. But it is a journalist, American journalist, and I said him, okay, that hand. Okay, you understand me, technical decision is able to decide sometimes very, very complicated political, military, and others tests. Today, we have a burden not of 3 very important problems in nuclear weapons area. It is still a huge arsenal in spite of very deep reductions implemented from Cold War today. We have, 10, 12,000 warheads on each side, strategic warheads on each side, America and Soviet Union. And we reduced these arsenals to 3,000-4,000 on each side. It is nevertheless very huge arsenals. It is not necessary to have. Second is hair trigger, so-called hair trigger posture of nuclear forces. I would like to remind a very interesting example from my experience on Cuban crisis about readiness, significance of readiness missile to launch. Maybe the world was saved in 1962 mainly due to the fact that missiles of those days were very imperfect. Very imperfect. They demanded more than 24 hours for preparing for launch. Remove from storages and stolen tables, fill fuel, and assemble warhead, nuclear warhead, and check. Only after that, launch. Therefore, in very crucial moment of crisis, when U-2 plane with pilot Major Anderson was killed, was shot down over Cuba, 27 October, so-called Black Friday. This technical buffer, time buffer, allows to agree between Khrushchev and Kennedy. Today, our Russian Saturn missile and American Minutemen demand only 1-2 minutes for launch. It is so-called hair trigger posture. I don't know why to have such very dangerous situation in peace time, in time when Cold War has ended already. It's over. And it is very dangerous situation, especially in new crisis maybe, because terrorists can preparing today to penetrate maybe, or early warning system, or Russian command system, and imitate information. I don't know what concrete achievement have they today. It is unknown. All. Very simple decision. Reduce this readiness. For example, remove warhead from missile and storage. If terrorists penetrate and launch one missile, or maybe more, one group missile, no problem. They are empty, without warhead. It is not big event for the world. And third problem is continuation of developing ballistic missile system, defense system by America. You know about this from media, from many information from TV and newspaper. Very sharp dispute, very sharp. Medvedev, President Medvedev, former president, said that if America will continue developing this DMD system, Russia will be forced to withdraw from START treaty. Therefore, all process of nuclear disarmament can be failed. America argues that this system, developing this system, does not threaten Russian nuclear forces. Their ability to retaliate in case of first American attack. I think that Americans are right, but I think also that the President Medvedev is right too. Both sides are right. Nevertheless, we have an impasse, blind alley. What is the reason? Please look. Reason is in the fact, in my view, that America and Russia continue to talk between them only on qualitative level. It is nobody can deny that creating and developing PMD system really reduced possibilities, potentialities, opponent side forces. It's clear, absolutely. But it is not known in qualitative level what concrete levels exist in this problem. Maybe there is some safety corridor where it's possible to have nuclear forces capable to retaliation and to have small BMD system that which can protect maybe underlined maybe from against 1-2 accident launch, maybe from Rockwell states, maybe Russia accidental launches. But we, my colleagues and myself, our international group, American, Russian and Australian experts, tried to find such corridor. are true that we are sure that it's necessary to provide open, joint assessment by both sides, all mutual real threats. Only with quantitative approach they can agree, they can prove each other their position. And earlier, at the present, both experts in Russia and Pentagon and General Staff try to estimate, to calculate damage from first attack opponent for its country. If you try to estimate, to provide mutual deterrence, such assessment, damage from first attack is not necessary, absolutely. Why? Reason is in the fact that here is necessary to know, to calculate more what is concrete level of risk this first attack for potential attacker. For example, Pentagon experts must calculate, must modeling risk first attack from American side, from Russian side, to calculate possible retaliation that America can provide for this attack against Russia. If this risk will be unacceptable, and if this risk will be known Russian side of course will not plan, will not implement this attack. In this case, calculate possible hypothetical damage from first attack on both sides is not necessary. It is clear. But this argument, this idea, demands very, very close cooperation between two sides. Open conversation without secret and others. Maybe today, in peacetime, and that when Cold War has ended, both sides feel shy to talk about nuclear war, terrible things and scenarios, concrete. I don't know. But I think that in such very important, very crucial, very vital and important area as nuclear weapons, both sides must be absolutely open and share any information about possible threats. And after that, there is a hope to agree and to decide these very serious problems. I repeat that our approach consists in the idea that safety of each party is based on its belief that opponent knows risk of first attack and don't learn and will not implement this attack. And this information exchange between this, and we say that it should be published. Today, all countries, and first of all America and Russia, Pentagon and General Staff, calculated these things for the closed door secretly. And we and you and our society in America, and Russia, and Australia, and worldwide knows nothing about this calculating, about model, about approach, about initial data is known on the internet, about result. Example, very interesting. In START 2 treaty negotiations, Russian military experts, official military experts, tried to provide such conditions on treaty. Then Russian nuclear forces are able to provide in retaliation strike to America, in retaliation, in response for first attack, nuclear explosions against 150, 300 American cities. It is huge demand, huge requirement, and I don't know why. If you ask any people on street in Washington, Boston, Los Angeles, and Moscow, how is enough to deter your military against first attack, against nuclear? Any people will answer very simple: 0 or 1 or 2. 1 or 2, it is not good. Result 2, because beforehand, absolutely unknown what concrete cities will be struck in retaliation. Any cities can be struck. We maybe asked me, why cities? Maybe it's better in retaliation to attack military facilities and troops and others. I don't know. I cannot decide this task. It is not my prerogative. Because imagine situation. If, for example, you are a member of duty crew on command post Russian missile regiment. You know about American attack. You know that your family, your friends killed, your house destroyed. Russia know more. What reaction is possible here? I think that maybe push button, but it is not my prerogative, I repeat. Potential attacker must think before attack about this. And I think that he must believe, must wait for worst result of retaliation. Then Russia will strike American cities. And a second detail is unknown, I repeat, what concrete strike will be destroyed in retaliation. Practically, American military themselves determine the fate of American cities, because they don't know beforehand what concrete Russian missiles will be destroyed, when what will survive. And survived will strike any people, any city. Maybe it's possible question about a problem of secrecy in this, because many times we always think that these problems, these ideas is very secret, but not, absolutely not. Nuclear war is absolute paradox, absolute paradox. It is not possible to use here usual primitive measures and assessment. About approach model, can they be secret, closed? No, because approach and model is only tool, instrument, like hammer. It is stupidity to hidden method or model. Please show general staff and Pentagon, please show us this model. I worked in general, I know these models. All necessary initial data fully in internet, completely in internet. All information about forces, about missiles, location, characteristics, and absolutely all, including history of division, names of commanders. It is full of openness. It is quite enough, quite sufficient for our study. No problem. Scenarios of war. We can, we must, and we do absolutely any scenarios, including incredible, because the more incredible scenarios, the more maybe accurate and correct our assessment. And finally, results. Results cannot be hidden from popular, because results of nuclear war, risk of nuclear war, first attack risk, it is our problem. It is our concern, not only a narrow group of highest military and politicians. Here I can look whom very interested in detail. Example of treaty on dialogue between Russia and America, where we can remain the right of each side to restore combat readiness if it believes that it is necessary. But it is very interesting detail again. Usually all sides, all countries and people and military and politicians think that in crisis, in sharp next international crisis, it is necessary to restore readiness of nuclear forces, to full readiness 1-2 minutes to launch. Our approach, our results of our study proved that it is not necessary to do, absolutely. Because even if one side will be able to reach first in place in restoring early than opponents, this side cannot ability to win in victory, because retaliation is impossible to exclude completely. 100%, it is impossible. And it is very important for with the point of view possible terrorist diversion, because terrorists can await sharp nuclear crisis, and in course of this crisis imitate false signals. But if our missiles reduce readiness, it is not a very serious problem. It can be neutralized during some hours, maybe more, maybe less. I would like to pass many slides. If to say briefly, the main essence of our approach, it can be expressed by such formula. Reliable mutual deterrence is non-zero probability of nuclear retaliation plus transparency and publicity of its assessment. Non-zero probability is absolute truth because technically and mathematically and theoretically it's so. Majority of all initial data in model, our statistical model, for example, accuracy of missile, characteristic of protection of targets, parameters of interceptors of BMD system, and accordingly to Russian anti-missile, anti-BMD measures. It is this all initial data has non-1 0 point value. They have 0.8, maybe 0.5, maybe 0.95 value, but non-zero. And when you combine in model these all initial data and calculate automatically, we receive an outcome on the exit of the model, always outcome with non-zero value, non-zero retaliation. It is clear. Question is, what concrete levels? Please look, please calculate, study, and open assessment and show public. Yeah, we see here one of possible doomsday scenarios in our model. Russia is victim state and America an attacker, but other scenarios have middle Mason's mirror glass essence, and each side has an de-alerted first echelon, so-called our forces de-alerted in two echelons, small and biggest, with a different readiness. About 150 missiles, and each Russian warhead is equipped with 5 heavy decoys. What is decoys? It is absolutely similar target for BMT system, for interceptors, like combat warhead. It is very difficult to distinguish them. What is combat, what is filch, what is decoys. We can use in our warheads, in our missiles, different number of decoys, and the more decoys, the more difficult task for BMT, American BMT. BMT has 100 inserters with very high 0.80 effectiveness, and plays 100 times. We called our project, our study, 100 nuclear wars. We try to underline always that is not 100 nuclear war scenarios. No, scenarios may be more, maybe less, but it's very, very important that in each scenario we calculate many times, maybe 100, maybe 1,000. Why? For what? Nuclear war is very, very casual process with uncertainty outcome. And nobody can know beforehand what concrete result will be in only one real test. And we must show all possible results from 0 maybe to certain levels. This is diagram of this scenario result. We see that horizontal line is 100 simulations, 100 runs. One scenario, I repeat. And vertical line is a number of nuclear warheads, Russian nuclear warheads, reach target on American territory, American cities. You see that in this diagram that only 3 cases are zero retaliation, no retaliation. 3 cases from 100. In other cases, there are retaliation with size 2, maximum 32 explosions on American territory, American cities. Maybe somebody, 0, okay, good. 0 is only consequences as a result exchange between only first echelons. Second echelon restoring its readiness, and participate in retaliation. More is more that it is not taken into account here ecological consequences. First attack, even explosions on Russian territory after American attack can lead to very, very huge change in ecological environment. Recently, group of American ecological experts, I meet them in conferences in Hamburg last year, proved that only 100 explosions and bombs, like Hiroshima bombs, in region of Pakistan, India, in case of conflict between them, will lead to catastrophic change in global climate. Big mass of smoke rising to stratosphere, blocked sunlight, reduced on some degrees temperature, and big consequences, negative consequences for agriculture, no food, starvation. And it is only 100 Hiroshima bombs in only one region, India, Pakistan region. This is a table about this scenario where you can choose user, society maybe, you use any of results possible. For example, if you have 150 missiles and interceptors, American 100, and decoys 5, we have minimum, mean, and maximum. Mean result is very conditional assessment, of course, because to say about mean result in nuclear war, no sense. But nevertheless, we included this result to show more easily for understanding. And 32 explosions maximum. I repeat, potential attacker must to wait worst case. If it is not military, it will be provided absolutely. Any people from you, it is enough. 1, 2, maybe 0 is better, but not 32. It is stupidity. Military may be used mean assessment. 10 American cities, maybe no problem. It is unknown beforehand what concrete problem, concrete city. I think that we must take this problem from assessment of this problem from military side, using special democratic institutes, decide them openly and present society for decision. If society decided that this risk unacceptable, then after that society can and will organize a special measures in organizational, in legislative, special law, and technical. First of all, be alerted. It is finished.
Yeah, I'm quite keen to allow my members to ask some questions.
I would like to finish in any case. I think that maybe it is very unusual approach where we offer recently enemies and to sit down on one computer and try to convince each other, providing national security, of course, each other, But I think, and my colleagues think, that it is impossible to reach agreement, maybe only on the long future. It is impossible today, very soon, reach something without such openness. Of course, there are many other problems in the nuclear weapons area, but I say about only decision between Russia and America, and nuclear threats, nuclear dangers in Pakistan, India is very high. Between them, it can be very sharp conflict in any moment. And Iran program, you know, and China is more secretly in this area. Official experts, world community experts, does not know accurate number of their Chinese missiles, especially in so-called underground facilities, tunnels. But I would like to underline that from the point of view of this study, it is not maybe important, because we offer approach to estimate. By the way, for your question, we have multi-scenarios, not only between Russia and America. We have scenarios in our model with participation China, India, Pakistan, and England, France, in a different combination of alliances. But our approach, our studies showed that in any scenarios, in any combinations, it's impossible to exclude a risk of retaliation. We offer to show this conclusion, this result to public. And first of all, it will allow to very deeply reduce arsenals of United States and Russia. And secondly, this example will be able to combine our efforts to convince, to prevent these states more decisively, more effectively. Today, when we argue each other about BMD system, about possibility withdrawal Start 3, of course, China and India, Pakistan, and Iran, and North Korea we will create our nuclear weapons. But if we use this approach, maybe another approach, alternative approach, but such approach that can prove jointly, openly, effectively reducing, then I hope that it's possible to reach a positive result. Okay. As for command control systems, I am an expert. I am sure that our decisions 50, maybe 30 years ago updated many times already. And for example, we're more concerned about American command control system. I published in New York, in Washington, in 2003, big book described American and Russian command control system, C-Cube Command Control Cooperation named. And I show that American command control system more tightly connected with outside networks, computer networks. It is very serious problem because you know very many hacker attacks on each day, many times. In Russia, our most important alliance in command system, completely isolated from outside networks. It is lines for this transmission launch orders. It is impossible. It is impossible to overcome this isolation. But nevertheless, you are right in your question that such concern exists always, because absolutely no any absolutely technical system which cannot be overcome by with the help of another technical system. That is why we offer de-alert, first of all. De-alert is removing many problems, because any terrorist sabotages, any ages, defects, and any errors will not lead to launch. No nuclear warheads, no maybe very important devices in missile, removed and storage. But as for early warning system, more complicated task, because there are many serious incidents in signal, an American screen and Russian screen, Stanislav Petrov example, and others, and Norwegian meteorological rocket in 1995. This perimeter can be very useful in for our president, for Russian president. If he saw signal about attack and false signal, he will not push button. He will delegate preliminary permission in facility perimeter and wait, real attack or not.